Good evening. I'm Jeff Lyons, along with Michael Fecka tonight, here for the First Alert Weather Show at 9 o'clock. We're tag teaming it, as we like to say.
Right.
Michael, thanks for covering me yesterday. I just need a little day to kind of decompress.
We all need a little rest before this
You'll
storm.
get yours in April. How about
Yes,
that? We'll just keep
exactly.
pushing it back. So, and of course, the reason we're together tonight and we'll be through the weekend is we want to give you the very best coverage we can. Michael has been poring over models and graphics. I've been trying to answer your questions and emails, and of course looking at the models too. And we're going to just kind of give a little more time to discuss what's coming up this weekend, because it's big. I mean, it's really big. Even, for here, it's very big.
Yeah, for a lot of folks across the United States, this is a major winter storm. We'll show all the winter weather alerts, but they stretch all the way from the border of Mexico and Texas to the New England coastline. So
right, and
huge,
and
huge
many
swath.
many days of disruption for everybody involved. So our plan here, at least starting tomorrow, is we will have streaming updates every 2 hours. So Byron's coming. Byron is a snow animal.
He loves
Can't
this.
wait. So he's going to be in here on his normal shift.
Yeah.
So you might even see him as early as 4 or 5 a.m. But we really don't think things are going to get going till about noon or a little after.
Yeah, not until like midday Saturday.
Right. And so, but Byron will be here, and then Arden's working tomorrow as well. She and Byron will overlap in the morning there at 10, and then Arden at noon too. I'll be here 2, 4, and then with Michael, we're going to tag team the news at 6. And then between those times, we're going to leave the radar up for you, so you can always look at the stream. The stream will be live that whole time.
Yes.
But we won't be talking the whole time. We got to save a little bit
Right.
for these little shows. So let's talk a little bit about impact. And you mentioned earlier, this is widespread.
Yeah, widespread impact. I like to show this like every time it updates, because every time it updates, it expands the area of that.
And it has considerably, hasn't it, here, even since we were looking at it at 6.
Yeah.
So, and if we pull that out just a little bit, to Michael's point here, you can see the extent. I mean, it covers just about everybody. Look, I can do that here too, kind of on the fly. And as Michael was saying there, out east even, this is going to be a highly impactful storm.
Even up to where I was, working for the last 2 years up in Bangor, Maine, this is going to be ending up to be a major snowstorm.
And I thought you left Bangor to get away from the snow. Wasn't that your plan?
I did. And you know what? I left Bangor to come to a warmer place. And, last year we had the coldest, snowiest winter in a long time. And now we're getting this big old storm. So.
Yeah, and it is packing a punch. Already starting to show up. We'll look at the radar here in a minute down in Texas and Oklahoma. And I think that makes us feel somewhat better, because up to this point it's been pretty much model-driven forecasting. Now we kind of switch to what we call a nowcasting mode, where we see, okay, is the model really nail it? And so far, at least, well, we can do thumbs up, thumbs down. I think the model's right on it.
Models are on it. They have been in fairly good agreement, which is quite odd, especially leading up to these storms. These models always fluctuate, and there's always a little bit of a discrepancy, but everything is pretty locked in here that we're going to see some significant snowfall.
Wednesday was really the turning point, because up to that point, the GFS had been kind of flaky, kind of on again, off again, but there's none of that going on now. Everybody's locked in.
Yeah.
And these are all the winter alerts that we have posted right now. The purple, very concerning down there, like Atlanta. You got a major air hub around Dallas, Arklatex, and so forth. And all of these areas are going to get very disruptive weather.
Yeah, so here we're in that lighter pink color, so that indicates we're in that winter storm warning, and we're under that winter storm warning primarily for that threat of heavy snowfall, although we too may still have a little bit of some mixing issues, primarily over western Kentucky, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail here. But we are looking at mainly snow here, a lot of that ice storm, or the concerning ice, staying well to our south there, where those ice storm warnings
And
are.
we've been, of course, behind the scenes, we've all been debating whether the cold air will win or the warm air will win. Warm air would bring ice into the south. Cold air would limit snowfall to the north. But we seem to be too far removed from either border, so we're just going to get the snow.
Yeah, we just pretty much get the snow here, at least through the heart of the tri-state. And where we're expecting to see maybe some mixing issues, we have that highlighted here in the pink. So mainly Webster, McLean, Hopkins, Muhlenberg, and Ohio counties, that's where they have the best chance to see that little bit of a warm nose lift in from the south. And that may change us over primarily, I think, to sleet, but there could still be some freezing rain, especially along the very far southern edge there of the tri-state.
Yeah, and when we talk about a warm nose, so you have the low pressure. I think we'll show that on a bigger map here in a minute. But basically, it's sucking up warm air just off the surface. Remember, we're well below freezing here at the ground, so we have that shallow layer potentially of sub-freezing air, and then warmer air right above it, and that's where you get that either freezing rain or sleet.
Yeah.
It'll be highly dependent on how thick the layer is of cold air, of sub-freezing air from the ground up. If it's thin, then all bets are off. It's going to be freezing rain. If it's a little thicker, we will likely see sleet. And of course, on top of snow already, that makes it much worse.
It makes it worse, and it does make it a little bit heavier. You know, we've been talking about snow characteristics and, you know, how it feels when you shovel it pretty much. And we're thinking it's going to be that dry, fluffy snow at least through Saturday. But as that mixing line marches northward, I think that may moisten up some of that snowflake, or moisten up some of the snowflakes. So they become a little bit more fatter, plumper, and then they become a little bit heavier. So you may get a mix of dry, fluffy snow, maybe some heavier, wetter snow, and then, of course, that chance for some sleet to our south.
Trying to please everybody here. You know, we haven't really talked about it, but what do you think about convection, thunder and lightning?
Well, I was looking at some lightning models. It does show the potential for some of those convective bands to set up along the Ohio River. So certainly not out of the realm of possibility to get some thunder.
When you get a big snow like this, oftentimes the mechanism in the atmosphere, that lift and so forth, it's kind of like, well, we said convective. It's similar to how a thunderstorm would form. Only obviously it's a snowstorm. But yeah, we can get thunder and lightning. That'll be interesting. If we get thunder snow, that'll be the first I've heard since 2004 for thunder snow. And we got some during the ice storm too. Let's talk about the timing here a minute. And now this has changed a little bit. Looks like we're a little bit later on the onset of widespread heavier snow.
Yeah, it looks like we'll start to see the widespread snow begin to move in by around midday Saturday. So late morning, early afternoon, we'll start to see some of those snow showers, and then it looks like it fills in coverage and intensity as we go through the evening hours. We have been talking about maybe that potential of a little bit of a lull in the late evening, you know, into the first part of the night, but it looks like it's kind of just filled back in.
Yeah, that kind of filled in on us here. And this model, by the way, updates about every hour or two. This is our internal, or what we call the graph model. So it can do that. And if you come back out here to us, because I wanted to point some stuff out here, the line there, and this is what Michael was talking about, that warm nose moving in. And so where you see the pink, that's where we would have a changeover or mix with the freezing rain or the sleet. Now, one thing that we noticed in looking at the models here just before we came on, that line has crept a little farther north, maybe 15, 20 miles farther north.
Yeah, so it's creeped its way up there into southern portions of Davis County, whereas before it was kind of locked up there across McLean. So it's shifted north a little bit, which is fairly trivial at this point in time, but it does show that potential for that sleet mixing up a little bit farther north, closer to the Ohio River than we had been talking about, at least since yesterday. So that's kind of the main change.
Yeah, and that will be the forecast challenge over the weekends, and that could change, as Michael said, tomorrow and through the event. So it's a situation like in Davis County, Utica, down there in the bottom of Davis County, could see a little sleet or mix, whereas like Owensboro, Maceo, up that way, all snow. Yeah.
Right.
And it'll be that close. It will be kind of a game of inches. And then what we're looking at here, there's a lot to take in, but the winds are gradually shifting around as the low tracks over here toward Michael or toward the east. And so that continues to draw the cold air down. Should squelch then that freezing rain and sleet.
And then as we go through, late Sunday morning into Sunday afternoon, you'll see we'll actually switch back over to all snow across the tri-state as that colder air rushes back in from the north. We'll get some additional snow into the afternoon, and then it all clears out of here by Sunday evening.
Yeah, and then we get that cold, that prolonged cold.
Yes.
And just to kind of reiterate the snowfall forecast, we have not, this is unusual too, we've not changed this since this morning.
Yeah, this is
Byron kind of went out with this. Arden tweaked it, but very slightly.
Yeah.
I left it as is. And then and we're leaving it pretty much as we've had it.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how you slice it, whether this storm overperforms and we end up on the higher end of these ranges or on the lower end of these ranges, either way, it's a significant snowstorm, and you're going to be impacted by it, and we recommend that you prepare for it and you hunker down this weekend.
And we don't want you to focus so much on the inches. I mean, we love the inches. You know, we like to say, oh, is it going to be 10, 12? But after you pass 3 or 4, it's academic. It's all bragging rights beyond that, because there will be very difficult travel conditions out there. This is the latest snowfall model now, and we kind of been filibustering here a bit because this usually updates right about the time we're doing
do
this
streams.
show, and we get all fired up and then it changes. So hopefully it will be the very same as it was, and it is, showing, and these numbers are slightly higher than they were from what I showed at 6, showing around 10 at Evansville, 9.5 there at Henderson, and then grand totals closer to a foot now, and near that in Owensboro. Notice Madisonville, Greenville, only at about 8. I say only 8.
Only 8.
That's kind of the situation we're in right now,
Yeah.
where you're saying only 8.
And I find myself laughing in my head
Yeah.
sometimes when I say that. I'm like, oh, only 8 inches. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going to cause a problem.
No,
It's
and so hopefully, we've made our point here, and as Michael was mentioning earlier, it's going to hinge on the ratio of snow to water. Now, typically, we use just as a spitball number 1 inch of rain to about 10 inches of snow.
Right.
But this situation's different.
Very different. We've got extremely cold temperatures. I mean, if you were paying attention to our 7-day, our temperatures are going to be in the teens throughout the entire duration of this event, and then overnight down into the single digits. So that prompts extremely high liquid to snowfall ratios, where we're looking at maybe on the order of 15, 16, 17 inches of snow per 1 inch of rainfall. Yeah. So now, I think that we'll likely see that kind of ratio Saturday when the air is a lot colder and drier. But the characteristics do change as the storm progresses. So,
and we start to ingest a little more
Yes.
moisture and warmer air. So that's
Right.
that's always the sticky wicket.
So then we may start to see snowfall ratios closer to 12 to 1 or 10 to 1, especially right out ahead of that mixing.
And
point.
even lower. 5
And
to
even
1,
lower, yeah.
And that's the real slushy heart attack, wet, heavy snow. And then ice, as you mentioned here, we think the greatest impact, and that would be like power outages and tree limbs coming down, would be likely Madisonville, Greenville, Hartford, and an accretion there of 1/4 of an inch of freezing rain. That's in the ballpark. Usually it's about 1/2 an inch to really cause massive chaos. But
Right, but this will add some sort of weight to those power lines, and that just increases the likelihood of at least some scattered power outages. So we want to make sure you're prepared for that potential. You want to make sure you have enough, food and water, non-perishable food items
Right.
for at least 3 days without power. Now, again, not expecting that, but it's certainly
always
a
be
possibility.
prepared. And the other element that's missing, the only element that's missing is wind.
Right.
We don't have fierce winds out there like we typically would. If we were a little closer to the low, and if the low were deeper, we could see, strong wind. We do not have that threat.
Right.
So that hopefully would mitigate the power outage and trees down situation. We're going to preach about winter driving for a minute, although, as we're going to say over and over, don't drive this
Don't
weekend,
drive.
just stay put. But there are some pretty common sense tips.
We know, obviously, we all want you to stay inside. Some people, you can't avoid it. We're going to have to be out on the roads as well. So these are some tips that we also take into consideration when we're coming into work. Clear all of the snow off of your vehicle, from the front windshield to the hood to the back of your car.
And the roof.
And the roof. You need to clean it all off, because if that falls, and especially if you're in areas where you may see a little bit of sleet, those could just end up being chunks of ice.
And right through somebody's windshield.
Right,
Yeah,
and then you could cause...
you can be ticketed for that too.
Yes.
A little fun fact there, and you don't want that.
Back in Maine, they would slap you with a $1,000 fine if they saw you driving around with snow on
We're
your
not
car.
that quite rigid here in
Yeah.
the Midwest. But still, it just as a courtesy to your neighbors, don't do that. So
Right.
just to kind of come around full circle here, our bullet points for the alert days this weekend have not changed. And we're going to concentrate here for a second on the cold now, because that is the ongoing, and I think a lot of people kind of blow off cold.
Right.
After the snow, it's like, okay, I'm going to go out there and shovel. Well, if it's 0,
yeah.
you're at risk.
You're at risk. And a lot of kids are going to want to play in the snow too, and it is going to be dangerously cold. So as much as I want the kids to go out and enjoy playing in it, you might really need to layer up and strictly limit the time that
moderation.
you're outside, because it may only be 15, 20-minute intervals that you can hang out outside without actually, running the risk of frostbite.
And you look at our temperatures here, even the highs are going to be lower than the normal low temperature for this time of the year. So teens over the weekend into Monday, Tuesday through next week, only up to 20. And if we go, today counts as well.
Right.
So we could be looking at maybe a 10-day period where we stay below freezing. That would be
Right.
close to a record as well.
Yeah, that would be close to a record. I think the National Weather Service was also talking about putting together some of those statistics as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to see some of that. But we can take a look at those feels like temperatures. So what you just saw was the actual air temperatures that
Yeah,
are going to be
with
in
no
the
wind.
teens and the single digits. When you factor in the wind, we're going to be waking up tomorrow morning alone, already going to feel like the single digits below zero. As we wake up Sunday morning, a little bit better, but still feeling like the single digits out there across the tri-state. And then after that storm system departs, it gets a lot colder by the time we get into Monday morning. We could be looking at single digits below zero up to maybe even into the teens below zero.
And that's the effect of the snowpack and a clear sky and calm winds. It
Right.
will allow that just like in the summer when we have efficient heating, this is efficient cooling. And I think as you and Arden were talking about this afternoon, it's kind of like we're in a big freezer because you've got
Right.
all this, freezing ice on the ground or snow. And the area you mentioned too, like 15 or 14 below Tuesday. It would surprise me. I mean, I can't speak, with certainty, but I think this will be disrupted like schools and that for many days past the snow itself because of the cold. And that's going to limit how quickly the snow can be cleared because stuff like salt, beet juice doesn't work at these temperatures.
Yeah, they become a lot less efficient at melting that snow, and it becomes more about that physical removal. So stay off the roads, let the plows get out there and do their jobs, and hopefully we can get everything in working order fairly quickly through next week.
I see we're getting some questions, so we are going to answer your questions here in just a minute. Just a real quick rundown here on what to wear, and I'll kind of peruse the questions, okay?
So yeah, as we clear out of this storm system, the worst of the cold moves in overnight Sunday into Monday, and then again overnight Monday into Tuesday morning, where we're looking at possibly into the teens below zero for those wind chill values. So you want to be dressing with at least 3 layers on the top, 2+ layers on the bottom. You want a warm pair of boots. You want to get gloves, mask, scarf, and a warm hat. You want to cover as much exposed skin as you can. And then,
All right, and we're starting to get the specific questions. How much snow do I think will happen in Owensboro near Davis County High School? Well, that's in that 11-inch band.
Right.
And, Davis County High School, a little south of Owensboro, possibly less. But, like we've said before, everybody's going to be at that highly impactful level, 8+. So there really isn't any escape from that. One thing that, and I like to do since I'm old and been around a long time and been through a few of these, is look at historically the context of it. Okay, how does this rank compared to one other? The only other situation I can think of in recent time that most of our listeners and viewers out here would remember would be 2004. Now, in that year, we had 22.4 inches of snow over 2 days.
Right.
But everything, and then we had the brutal cold after that, and we were shut down, the better part of a week. Now, Christmas fell in there, so that was a little different.
yeah.
But with a 7 to 16-inch accumulation, that would put us in probably the top 5 snow events here. I think we have to toss out 1918. Nobody remembers that anyway. But in modern history, it could rank up there. And of course, the extended dangerous cold is the other main point. And then this final one we'll kind of end on here is stay put. It's 2 words are our advice: stay put.
Stay put.
Now, I realize a lot of people can't stay put. And my wife was telling me tonight that I think it was the Evansville Jeepers, folks with Jeeps are going to be out driving like hospital, healthcare workers.
Oh, okay.
And so there are resources out there, and you should get on your socials and look for those. And of course, news will make an effort to put that out too. But, if you're a nurse or a doctor or, if you're in an essential operation that keeps going no matter what, there are ways you can get, taken to where you go. Probably not Uber, unless the Uber guy has a Hummer.
Yeah, maybe not. But yeah, definitely look into those Jeepers. That sounds like a really great option.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not the best at driving in snow.
And what will likely happen, at least, past snowstorms prove, once we get into it, these people and resources will bubble up and they'll make themselves known. And we'll, of course, cover that here on the news. And of course, we got the 7-day. We pretty well covered it's going to be cold and dry next week. But our plan here, at least to keep you all informed, is just frequent updates through the weekend, every 2 hours. So just think of it as, every like noon, 2, 4, 6, etc. We will have some of us in here. It might be 1, might be 2, answering your questions, telling you what's going on, and you'll be able to look at this stream just to watch the radar if that's what
Right.
you want to do. So that we're here, and we're going to be here for you. News, the same thing. They've called everybody in, and so we'll have continuing coverage on that side as well.
Yep.
And the best part about the stream is we won't have to interrupt what's over on TV
Right.
tomorrow or Sunday if you're watching your sports or whatever. We'll do a little brief cut in over there to invite you to come over to the stream. And obviously you're watching, so you know how to do it. But if your friends don't know how, the easiest way is you search 14 News, like on your Roku or Fire or whatever.
We even got the
Yeah.
next
Oh,
slide
you
that'll
got
show
that.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here,
Here's all the
Michael built this
options.
graphic, and now I'm talking all over it. So let's go through that, Michael.
Yeah, so we'll, like Jeff said, we'll be doing live weather updates here on streaming only every 2 hours. So that may start as early as Byron gets in tomorrow morning, but we're expecting, at least 10 a.m., 12.
He'll probably
2,
do one at 8.
4, yeah.
And then Sunday morning, we're actually doing a full-fledged newscast starting at 8, and that will be Byron and somebody, Mitch.
I'm not sure.
There will be people here reading the news and telling you what's going on.
But even outside of that newscast, you'll be able to get these streaming updates all throughout the day tomorrow on the 14 News app and the 14 First Alert Weather app. Those will be the two best places to find that information, because we'll send a push notification directly to your phone. So all you have to do is click on it and you'll get right into the stream. And we stream also to Facebook Live, YouTube, and on our website. So if you don't have the app and you don't feel like downloading the app, you can visit those places. And if you're a fan of watching on TV, Android TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku will also be hosting these streams.
We've got it covered. Charity Johnson wants to know how much ice in Dawson Springs. I think that, I'm sorry, Vicky Robarge wants to know that. And we were saying about a quarter of an inch or so would be likely in southern Hopkins County. And we have another thing here. How much for Muhlenberg, or how much do we think? And I think for Muhlenberg, we got Cheyenne Hammonds filling in for us. She's answering the question.
Oh,
well, good.
perfect.
Thanks, Cheyenne.
I love that.
Yeah, that's right.
I love when the viewers help us out.
That's right, they do. But for Muhlenberg County, that because that sticks the farthest south, you have the best chance of getting the ice. In addition to the snow, so you might get a few inches of snow, transitioning to sleet or freezing rain, then back to snow. It'll be a messy calculation. And when you're measuring your snow, don't be like the butcher that puts the thumb on the scale. Go out and just stick your ruler down 2 or 3 places away from a house or tree in that, and then just kind of take the average. You can't shove it down in the mud. We don't want you to do that.
Yeah, we don't want the mud. But
we do want your reports.
We do.
That helps us.
We love seeing your pictures and your reports. So please have those coming in throughout the day tomorrow. We'll also probably feature those reports, your pictures, your videos, also on our stream.
Yeah, and you can submit those through the 14 First Alert app, or you can go to our webpage and you'll see submit photos up there in the banner, and just follow, just drag it in, and that'll be good.
Yeah.
And let's see, I think that's all we had. It is. So I think we're all set. Michael and I will be on 14 News at 10 o'clock tonight, and then we start our coverage tomorrow with Byron Douglas, bright and early, probably. Knowing Byron, it'll be around 4 or 5.
Yeah, he'll be in here
and then he'll be doing Today's Show cut-ins, so whenever those occur between 7 and 8. And then he'll be in here in the stream room at 8, and then followed up with Arden Gregory at 10 and noon. And then I'll be here during the afternoon along with Michael.
Yep.
And then we'll rinse, repeat, and do it all again Sunday to some extent. So in the meantime, you all stay safe. Hopefully you've gotten the information that you need, and we'll have you covered through the weekend. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on 14 News at 10.